everyone. Welcome back to Agile Unlocked. I'm Coach RL, and today we're highlighting a topic that's honestly close to my heart: experimentation in Agile teams. Now, I know sometimes when we talk about experiments and people's eyes glaze over, right? They think, oh, that's for the data nerds, or we don't have time for that. We've got real work to do. But here's the thing, and please remember this. Experimentation is the engine of innovation. It's how teams learn, adapt, and frankly, avoid making the same mistakes over and over. Let's break it down. Why experiment? Well, for starters, it's about learning fast and cheap. Take Google's famous 20% time. Engineers get a slice of their week to work on whatever they want. That's how Gmail and Google News were born. It's not just about wild ideas, though. It's about risk mitigation. Instead of betting the farm on a big initiative, you run a small proof of concept, see what works, and then scale. But when do you actually pause capital work for these experiments? That's the million-dollar question. I've seen teams get stuck in delivery mode, heads down, cranking out features, and they never come up for air. But sometimes you gotta hit pause. Maybe you're facing a persistent customer pain point, or there's a new technology you're not sure about. That's exactly when a pilot or a hackathon can be a game changer. I'll give you a quick example. A while back, I facilitated a hackathon at a local financial services firm. The team was struggling with customer onboarding, lots of drop-offs, lots of frustration. We carved out 2 days, just 2, for a focused experiment. The team prototyped a new onboarding flow, tested it with a handful of real users, and get this, saw a 15% improvement in completion rates. That little experiment, it ended up shaping the roadmap for the next quarter. Sometimes the smallest bets pay the biggest dividends. So, experimentation isn't just a nice to have. It's how you foster innovation, drive learning, and reduce risk. And honestly, it keeps the work fresh. Nobody wants to be a feature factory, right? Now, let's talk about the real challenge: making experimentation part of your culture. It's one thing to run a one-off hackathon, but how do you make this a habit? Spotify is a great example. Their squads have autonomy to try new things, run experiments, and share learnings. Atlassian does ship it days, 24 hours to build anything you want. And what a revolutionary idea. But these aren't just fun events. They're signals from the organization's leadership that experimentation is valued. But, and this is a big but, there are real drawbacks, and let's talk about them. First off, context switching, which can be brutal. If you're constantly jumping between capital work and experiments, you risk losing focus, and the ramp-up time that follows can be significant. Here's another drawback. Sometimes the value of an experiment isn't clear and leadership starts to get nervous. Are we just playing around here? And let's be honest, not every leader is on board with pausing delivery for something that might not pan out. It's a truly valid concern. So, how do you get buy-in? One approach I've seen work is using what's called stakeholder alignment boards. You make the experiment visible, you clarify the hypothesis, and you set clear boundaries. What are we trying to learn? How will we measure it? And what's the time box? Another tool is called the experiment charter. It's like a mini contract. Here's what we're testing. Here's how we'll know if it's working, and here's when we'll stop. That structure helps leaders feel more comfortable, and it keeps the team focused. Now, measuring impact is tricky, though. How do you know if an experiment is moving the needle on culture or delivery velocity? Sometimes it's quantitative. Maybe you see a drop in cycle time or an uptick in customer satisfaction. Other times it's qualitative. Are teams having richer conversations? Are they more willing to challenge the status quo? I always say look for both. If you're only tracking the numbers, you'll miss the human side. And if you're only going by your gut feeling or instinct, you might miss the bigger picture. I might be rambling a bit, but the point is embedding experimentation in your culture takes intention. It's about creating psychological safety, giving teams permission to try, and making sure the learning gets shared, not just buried in a Jira or ServiceNow ticket somewhere. All right. So you're convinced experimentation matters, and maybe you've even got some buy-in. But how do you balance it with the day-to-day grind? This is where things get real. One method I love is called dual track development. You've got one track for delivery, one for discovery. Teams rotate between the two, so you're always learning, always building. Work in progress or WIP limits help too. If you cap the number of experiments and capital projects in flight, you avoid spreading yourself too thin. Some teams do rotating innovation sprints. Every few sprints, you dedicate a cycle to experiments. It's not a free-for-all. You still have goals, but the focus is on learning, not shipping features. Capital One's a great case study here. They run hackathons, but the real magic is in how they integrate the results. There's a clear governance process. If an experiment shows promise, it gets a champion, a business case, and a path to production. That way, the learning doesn't die on the vine. Capturing and scaling learnings is a whole discipline in itself. I'm a big fan of the lean startup approach. Build, measure, learn. Document what you tried, what you learned, and what you'll do next. My own Start Strong guidebook has a framework for this. Start with a clear hypothesis. Define your success criteria and make sure you've got a feedback loop. And don't forget to share the results, good, bad, or ugly. That transparency is what helps the whole organization get smarter. So, to wrap up, experimentation isn't about being reckless or chasing shiny objects. It's about disciplined learning, balancing risk and reward, and making sure your team and your business are always moving forward. If you want to dig deeper, check out Lean Startup by Eric Ries, or grab a copy of my book on Amazon, Start Strong, for some practical templates. And remember, the best experiments are the ones that fit your team, your context, and your goals. That's it for today's episode. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Agile Unlocked. In the meantime, keep experimenting, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next one.